Danny Ortega signed off on the delivery receipt and watched the dock worker walk away without a word of thanks. Nothing new there. Mail couriers ranked somewhere between furniture and background noise in most people's minds. He climbed back into the Wanderer and ran through his pre-flight checks with practiced efficiency. The next package sat in his cargo hold, wrapped in standard shipping materials but radiating warmth through the container walls. Danny had learned not to ask questions about cargo contents. His job was simple: pick up packages, drop them off, collect payment, repeat. The manifest said geological samples heading to some research station in the Hadrian Belt. Fine by him. He punched in the coordinates and frowned. The station designation came back as inactive. Probably a data error. Happened all the time with remote facilities. He initiated the jump sequence and settled back with his audiobook playing through the cabin speakers. Some detective story set on old Earth, back when humans still lived on one planet and thought that was the whole universe. Halfway through the jump, his navigation console beeped. Proximity alert. Danny paused his book and checked the readings. Something large was moving parallel to his ship, matching his speed and trajectory perfectly. He switched to visual sensors but saw only empty space and distant stars. The sensor kept insisting something was there. Something massive. Danny adjusted his course slightly to the left. The phantom reading shifted left with him. He tried right. It followed. A chill ran down his spine. Pirates didn't have ships that big, and military vessels would have hailed him by now. He increased speed. The reading kept pace. The jump completed, and the Wanderer emerged into normal space near the research station. Danny forgot about his mysterious shadow as he got his first look at the facility. The place was ancient, its hull plating pitted with micrometeorite impacts and faded from decades of stellar radiation. No lights showed in any windows. No comm signals responded to his hails. He maneuvered closer and accessed the station registry. Last recorded activity, 52 years ago. The whole crew had simply packed up and left, according to the logs. No explanation given. Danny grabbed the warm package from his cargo hold and suited up. The station's docking ring still functioned, barely. He cycled through the airlock and found himself in corridors thick with dust. His helmet light cut through the darkness as he followed the package's designated delivery coordinates. Deeper into the facility, the path led him to what looked like a ceremonial chamber rather than a research lab. The walls were covered in symbols he didn't recognize, carved directly into the metal. At the center of the room sat a platform with a circular depression, exactly the size of his package. Danny placed the container in the depression and stepped back. Nothing happened for several seconds. Then the symbols on the walls began to glow, pale blue light spreading from one carving to the next like fire along a fuse line. The package's wrapping dissolved, revealing a crystalline sphere that pulsed with inner light. A deep vibration thrummed through the station's structure. Danny felt it in his bones rather than heard it. The sphere lifted from the platform, rotating slowly in midair. The wall carvings blazed brighter, and for just a moment Danny could have sworn they formed words in a language he almost understood. Something passed overhead outside the station. Something so large it blocked out the stars. Danny ran back to his ship, heart hammering. He sealed the airlock and fired up the engines without bothering with half his usual pre-flight checks. As the Wanderer pulled away from the station, he caught a glimpse of something impossible on his rear camera's wings, vast wings that shimmered like they were made of solidified starlight. A body covered in scales that reflected the light of distant suns. A head the size of his entire ship, with eyes that glowed like molten gold. Then it was gone, vanishing into the darkness between stars. Danny's hands shook on the controls. He must have imagined it. Space madness from too many solo runs. Stress hallucination. Something. He was halfway back to civilized space when he decided to run a hull integrity check. Standard procedure after visiting abandoned facilities. The scan came back clean except for one anomaly. Surface markings on the outer hull, port side. Danny pulled up the visual feed and stared. Long scratches ran across the metal, too precise to be random debris damage. They formed patterns, symbols, The same symbols he'd seen on the research station walls. His proximity alert beeped again. Danny checked his sensors and felt his stomach drop. 3 massive readings, each one larger than a bulk freighter, flying in formation behind his ship. They'd been following him for the past 2 hours. Staying just at the edge of sensor range, he tried evasive maneuvers. They matched every move. He increased speed to maximum. They kept pace effortlessly. Danny opened a COM channel to his dispatch, his voice remarkably steady considering the circumstances. "Rita, this is Danny. I've got a situation here. 3 large unknowns are following my ship. They've been tailing me since the Hadrian Belt delivery." Static crackled for a moment before Rita's voice came through. "Define large, Danny." "Each one's reading bigger than a cargo hauler." "And Rita, I think they're alive." More static. When Rita spoke again, her casual tone had vanished. "Get to the nearest station right now. Stay in populated areas. I'm flagging this for sector security." "Copy that." Danny changed course for a Freehaven station, the closest hub with actual defenses and lots of witnesses. Whatever was following him, he wanted people around when it caught up. The 3 shapes behind him adjusted their trajectory, still following, still matching his every move, still waiting for something. Danny cranked up his audiobook again, trying to focus on anything other than the impossible creatures trailing his ship through the endless dark. Freehaven Station grew larger in the viewport as Danny approached. The massive trading hub bustled with traffic, ships of every size and design flowing in and out like insects around a hive. He'd never been so happy to see crowds. The 3 shapes still followed him, no longer bothering to hide. They registered on his sensors as clear as day now, and apparently on everyone else's too. Traffic control's voice came through his COM with barely controlled panic. "Wanderer, be advised you have 3 unidentified large objects following your approach vector. Reduce speed and prepare for possible defensive action from station security. Traffic control, those objects have been following me for hours. They haven't made any aggressive moves." Danny kept his voice calm even though his knuckles were white on the controls. "Copy that, Wanderer. Maintain current heading. Defense grid is tracking the unknowns?" Danny watched his rear cameras as the shapes came fully into view against the backdrop of the station's lights. They were definitely the creatures from the research station. Dragons, the word popped into his head unbidden, pulled from childhood stories and ancient myths. Except these were real, flying through vacuum as easily as birds through air. Each one was unique. The largest had scales like polished black stone shot through with veins of gold. Another seemed made of crystal or ice, its body refracting light into rainbow patterns. The third glowed dull red. Like cooling metal fresh from a forge, they followed Danny right to the docking perimeter and then stopped. Simply hung there in space, wings spread wide, watching the station with those impossibly bright eyes. Ships scattered in all directions. Alarms blared across every frequency. Danny docked quickly and found himself immediately surrounded by station security. Before they could start their interrogation, a woman in a researcher's coat pushed through the group. "Let me through. I need to speak with the pilot." She had dark skin, close-cropped hair, and eyes that burned with excitement rather than fear. "My name is Dr. Amara Okafor. I'm a xenobiologist." Those creatures outside matched descriptions from pre-colony mythology. "Stellar drakes. I've been researching them for 10 years and everyone said I was chasing fairy tales." Danny climbed down from his ship, every muscle aching with tension. "They're following me." "Why are they following me?" Amara pulled out a tablet and showed him images. Ancient cave paintings from old Earth, depicting humans and enormous winged creatures flying together among the stars. "Because you might be starbound. It's an old legend. Humans and dragons used to have a partnership back before we lost space travel during the Dark Ages. The starbound were the humans who carried dragon eggs between worlds and flew with them as companions." "That's insane." Danny rubbed his face. "I'm a mail courier. I deliver packages and mind my own business. You just delivered a dragon egg to an ancient sanctuary and activated a beacon that's been dormant for Thousands of years. Amara's tablet showed sensor readings from the research station. The symbols you saw are pre-colony human writing mixed with something else. Dragon language, probably. You completed part of a ritual just by putting that egg where it belonged. Station security demanded answers. Scientists wanted to study the creatures. Reporters tried to push closer. Danny felt walls closing in from all directions. He'd spent years avoiding exactly this kind of attention. Then the dragons started singing. The sound came through ship hulls and station walls, resonating in bones and metal alike. It wasn't threatening. Danny knew that instinctively, even as security forces raised weapons and people screamed. The song was beautiful in a way that made his chest ache, like remembering something precious that had been lost. They're trying to communicate. Amara was recording everything on her tablet, tears streaming down her face. This is first contact with an intelligent species, and it's happening because of you. Danny pushed through the crowd toward the observation deck. He had to see them up close. Had to understand what they wanted from him. Security tried to stop him, but Amara ran interference, arguing about scientific protocols and first contact procedures. The observation deck was empty, everyone else having fled to the interior of the station. Danny pressed his hand against the viewport and stared out at the three dragons orbiting patiently in the void. The largest one, the black and gold one, turned its massive head and looked directly at him. Their eyes met across empty space. Something slammed into Danny's mind. Not words, images, emotions, memories that weren't his own. He saw humans flying alongside, dragons through nebulae and between planets. Saw dragon eggs being carefully transported to safe worlds. Saw humans and dragons fighting together against things that moved through deep space, hungry and terrible. Saw a partnership that lasted millennia, then he saw it break. Saw humans turn afraid, forgetting the old bonds. Saw dragons retreat into hibernation, waiting for the fear to pass. Waiting for humans to remember, the dragon pressed closer to the viewport, its golden eye filling Danny's vision. The flood of images continued. He saw the egg he'd delivered, pulsing with life in its sanctuary. Saw the three dragons wake from centuries of sleep when the beacon activated. Saw them recognize the signature of someone with starbound blood. Danny collapsed. His last thought before darkness took him was that the dragon's eye looked sad. He woke in the station. Medical bay with Amara sitting beside him, exhausted but excited. "You've been out for 6 hours. The dragons are still waiting. They won't leave, and they won't let anyone approach the station perimeter. I've been researching your genetic markers." She showed him a data screen covered in medical codes he didn't understand. "You carry dormant genes that match samples from archaeological sites connected to the starbound legends. It's in your DNA, Danny. The dragons know what you are even if you don't." Danny sat up slowly. Through the medical bay's small window, he could see one of the dragons circling in the distance. "The station director wants them gone," Amara said quietly. "He's planning to use the defense grid to drive them away. You have maybe an hour to decide what you're going to do." Asterisk alarm screamed through the medical bay. Danny jerked upright as red lights flashed across every surface. Amara was already at the door, shouting over the noise. "They're powering up the defense grid early. We need to move now." Danny didn't think. He ran. His body moved on instinct, pulling him toward the docking bay while his mind screamed that this was crazy. He was a courier. A nobody who delivered packages and avoided complications. But his feet kept moving and something in his chest pulled tight, urging him forward. The docking bay was chaos. Ships were launching in panic while station security tried to maintain order. Danny spotted the Wanderer and sprinted for it, Amara right behind him. "You don't have to do this," she called out. "I know." Danny hit the airlock controls and the door hissed open. "But I'm doing it anyway. You should stay here where it's safe." Amara climbed in after him. "Not a chance. This is the most important xenobiological event in human history. I'm documenting everything." They launched just as the defense grid began to hum with power. Massive cannons swiveled toward the three dragons still circling peacefully outside the station perimeter. Danny pushed his engines to maximum and put the Wanderer directly between the weapons and the creatures. This is station security. Clear the firing line immediately, or you will be classified as hostile. Danny opened his cum. If you fire, you'll hit me first. And I'm betting you don't want to explain to the media why you killed a civilian to chase away creatures that haven't hurt anyone. Silence. The defense grid continued tracking but didn't fire. Danny held his breath. The largest dragon moved. It flowed through space with impossible grace, wings spreading to their full span. It circled the Wanderer once, twice, 3 times. Then it positioned itself alongside Danny's ship, so close he could see individual scales on its massive body. Images flooded his mind again, clearer this time. He saw what Amara had described. The ancient partnership? Dragons protecting human settlements from things that hunted in the deep dark between stars. Humans carrying dragon eggs to safe worlds, ensuring both species survived. He saw why it ended. A plague of fear that swept through humanity after a war with something from outside known space. Humans forgot how to trust. Forgot the old bonds. Started seeing the dragons as threats instead of friends. The dragons went to sleep rather than fight their former partners. They waited. Centuries passed, millennia. They dreamed of the day when humans would remember. Danny understood now. The warm package? The egg. The ancient sanctuary. He hadn't just made a delivery. He'd completed a ritual that marked him as someone who still carried the starbound gift in his blood. Someone the dragons could trust? I'm calling you Ash, Danny whispered, looking at the black and gold dragon through his viewport. Because you look like a forge fire that's almost gone out but still has heat in it. The dragon's emotions washed over him, approval, hope, relief. So profound it brought tears to Danny's eyes. The other 2 dragons moved closer. The crystalline one seemed to shimmer with curiosity. The red one radiated warmth and protection. They formed a triangle around the Wanderer, their wings creating a shelter in the void. Amara was recording everything, muttering scientific observations while tears ran down her face. They're communicating. Not with words, but with direct emotional transfer. This is how they must have worked with ancient humans. Shared understanding without language barriers. Danny felt Ash pressing more images into his mind. Dragon eggs scattered across forgotten sanctuaries throughout the galaxy. Most still dormant. Some in danger. The image focused on one location in particular. A mining operation. Heavy equipment tearing into ancient rock. Crystalline objects being loaded onto cargo ships, classified as exotic minerals. Objects that weren't minerals at all. Dragon eggs? Dozens of them. About to be sold to the highest bidder or destroyed in processing. Oh no, Amara was seeing the same images through her sensors, reading the coordinates Ash was projecting. That's the Helix Mining Company's new operation in the Perseus Arm. They found something they called ice crystals 3 weeks ago. Started extracting them 2 days ago. Danny checked the coordinates. That's halfway across the galaxy. Even with these 3 helping us navigate, it'll take 3 days minimum. Ash's response was immediate. Urgency. Need. Those eggs contained the last generation of dragons born before the Great Sleep. If they were destroyed, an entire bloodline would end. Station security, this is Danny Ortega. I'm heading out with the dragons. They're not hostile. They need help, and I'm going to give it to them. You can try to stop me, or you can let the media know that humanity just got a second chance at something we lost a long time ago. The cum crackled. Danny recognized the station director's voice, tight with frustration and uncertainty. This is against every protocol. You could be harboring dangerous organisms. Or I could be helping save an intelligent species from extinction. Danny angled his ship toward open space. History will judge which one it was. Amara sent a burst transmission on all public channels. Her research. Her theories. The images the dragons had shared. Within minutes it was spreading across the galactic network. Scientists, historians, and curious citizens started demanding answers. The defense grid powered down. The station director's voice came through one last time. If you're wrong about this, Ortega, you'll spend the rest of your life in a detention facility. If I'm right, we'll have corrected one of humanity's biggest mistakes. Danny engaged his jump drive. Worth the risk. The three dragons positioned themselves around the Wanderer. As the ship began to fold space for the jump, Danny felt their presence supporting the process somehow, making it smoother, stronger, the jump that should have taken hours completed in minutes. When they emerged, Ash sent a feeling of approval mixed with an emotion that took Danny a moment to identify. Pride. The dragon was proud of him. 2 more jumps like that and we'll reach the mining site, Amara calculated. But we need to warn them what they're doing. Danny was already composing a message to send ahead. He just hoped the miners would listen before it was too late. The second jump completed and Danny's body ached from the stress. Space travel wasn't meant to be this fast. The Wanderer systems complained with warning lights and stuttering readouts. But the dragons made it possible, their presence somehow smoothing the rough edges of each reality fold. Amara had sent dozens of messages to Helix Mining Company. All went unanswered. She tried official channels, emergency frequencies, even personal contacts in the mining industry. Nothing. They're independent operators, she explained, frustrated. They don't have to answer to galactic regulations this far out, and they probably think we're trying to steal their claim. Danny felt Ash's growing anxiety through their connection. The dragon showed him images of the eggs, pulsing faintly with life even in their dormant state. Each one was a sleeping mind waiting to wake after thousands of years. The thought of them being cut apart or sold as decorations made Danny's stomach turn. His cum finally pinned with an incoming message. Not from the mining company, but from Rita, his dispatcher back at headquarters. Danny, I pulled some strings. You've got priority clearance through the restricted lanes between here and Perseus Arm. Should cut your travel time by 8 hours. She paused. I also contacted some friends in the media. This story is everywhere now. The miners will have a hard time ignoring you when you arrive with half the galaxy watching. Thanks, Rita. Danny felt a surge of gratitude. I thought you'd be angry about me going rogue. You're not rogue. You're doing the job couriers have always done. Delivering something important to where it needs to go. Her voice softened. Besides, I've been flying these routes for 30 years. Sometimes you see things that don't fit the standard explanations. Maybe it's time we started believing in them. The third and final jump approached. Danny ran diagnostics on the Wanderer's overtaxed systems. Everything was in the red but still functional, barely. Ash sent a wave of concern. The dragon could sense the ship's strain. The other 2 dragons, Frost and Crimson, as Danny had started calling them, moved closer. Their presence seemed to envelope the Wanderer in some kind of protective field. They're trying to help, Amara observed, her scientific interest temporarily overriding her worry. Some kind of energy projection that's reducing stress on your hull? Remarkable? Danny engaged the final jump. Reality twisted and the Wanderer leaped across vast distances in seconds. When they emerged, the Perseus Arm stretched before them in all its glory. And there, against the backdrop of stellar dust and distant suns, sat the mining operation. It was bigger than Danny expected. Multiple ships, processing facilities, even a small station for workers. Lights blazed across the dig site where massive machines tore into an asteroid's surface. And floating near one of the cargo ships were dozens of crystalline objects, each one the size of a person. Dragon eggs? Ash let out a sound that Danny felt rather than heard. Grief, rage, love. The dragon surged forward before Danny could react, the other 2 following. But they stopped short of the mining operation, holding position just outside weapons range. This is Helix Mining Security. Unidentified vessels, you are approaching private property. State your business or be fired upon. Danny took a breath. This is Danny Ortega of the Wanderer. I'm here about the crystals you've been extracting. They're not minerals. They're eggs. Living eggs of an intelligent species. Laughter came through the cum. Nice try, but we've had those things analyzed. They're just pretty rocks. Gonna fetch a good price on the luxury market. And then why are they generating heat? Amara cut in. Your own sensors will show thermal signatures. Why are they pulsing at regular intervals like a heartbeat? Why do they respond to electrical stimulation? Silence, then a different voice, older and female. This is Boss Reina, site supervisor. Who's the expert? Dr. Amara Okafor, xenobiologist. And I have 3 adult members of this species right here who can prove those eggs are alive. More silence. Danny watched his sensors as activity increased around the mining site. Ships moving. Weapons charging. Then Boss Reina spoke again, her tone careful. All right. I'll hear you out. But just you two? The creatures stay back. And you come unarmed. Danny and Amara looked at each other. It could be a trap, but they were out of time. Agreed, Danny said. We're coming in. Ash sent a burst of protective instinct, so strong it almost made Danny change course. But he pushed back gently, trying to convey trust and necessity. The dragon reluctantly accepted, though all 3 creatures remained alert and ready. The Wanderer docked with the main processing facility. Boss Reina met them at the airlock, a weathered woman with calculating eyes. She led them through corridors filled with workers who stared at the newcomers with suspicion. They entered the cargo bay where the eggs were stored. Danny's breath caught. Up close, the crystalline surfaces swirled with faint colors. He could feel warmth radiating from them even through his suit. I'll admit they're unusual. Boss Reina crossed her arms. But unusual doesn't mean alive. And it definitely doesn't mean intelligent. Let me show you something. Amara pulled out a scanner and ran it over the nearest egg. The readout showed patterns that matched neural activity. These are brain waves. Slow ones like someone in deep sleep, but definitely there. Boss Reina studied the readings. Danny could see her weighing options. Lost profit versus potential legal trouble. Versus the moral implications of destroying sentient life. Then alarms blared. A worker's voice crackled over the comm. Boss, we've got a problem. One of the cargo ships just launched without authorization. The one carrying half the eggs. Danny's heart sank. Through his connection with Ash, he felt the dragon's horror. Someone had decided not to wait for the debate to conclude. Someone was stealing the eggs right now. Boss Reina swore. That's my head of security. He must have another buyer lined up. She turned to Danny. Can those creatures of yours catch a ship in faster than light? I don't know. Danny was already running for his ship, but we're going to find out. Danny launched from the dock before his ship fully cleared the airlock. Amara grabbed a support rail to keep from being thrown across the cabin. The stolen cargo ship was already spooling up its jump drive, its engines glowing bright against the darkness. Through his connection with Ash, Danny felt the dragon's fury, but underneath it was something else. Strategy. The 3 dragons didn't chase the cargo ship. Instead, they positioned themselves in a triangle formation around it, their wings spread wide. Light began to build between them. Not normal light. Something that bent space itself, creating visible ripples in reality. What are they doing? Amara stared at her instruments. The readings don't make sense. They're generating a localized gravity well. A big one. The cargo ship tried to jump. Its drive engaged, reality started to fold, and then nothing happened. The ship stayed exactly where it was, caught in the field the dragons had created. It tried again. Failed again. Danny opened a channel on all frequencies. This is Danny Ortega. To whoever is piloting that cargo ship, you need to power down. Those eggs you're carrying are living beings. Children, you're committing kidnapping at the very least. A harsh voice responded. This is Captain Morris. I'm carrying cargo that I was hired to transport. Whatever story you're selling doesn't change my contract. Your contract is with Boss Reina, and she's ordered you to stand down, Danny shot back. Check your company channels. My contract is with someone who pays better than Reina, someone who wants these crystals intact, and doesn't care about fairy tales, Morris laughed. Tell your pets to back off or I'll vent the cargo hold. See how fireproof dragon eggs are in hard vacuum? Ash sent a spike of terror through Danny's mind. The dragon understood the threat even without words. Those eggs had survived thousands of years in stasis, but they were still fragile. Exposure to vacuum and extreme cold could kill them. Don't do this, Danny pleaded. There has to be a price that makes this not worth it. Kid, I'm being paid enough to retire to a paradise world. No price you can offer beats that. The cargo ship's hold door began to open. 5 seconds. Tell the creatures to release my ship or the eggs go into space. Danny's mind raced. The dragons couldn't let the ship jump away with the eggs. But they couldn't risk the eggs being destroyed either. He felt Ash's desperate search for options and found none that worked. Then Amara grabbed his arm. Send everything public. Right now, every channel. Show what's happening. Danny didn't question it. He routed his ship's sensors to broadcast on every frequency, commercial and private. He showed the cargo ship with its hold doors open. Showed the eggs visible through the gap, pulsing with faint life. Showed the 3 ancient dragons holding position, trying to protect their young without triggering violence. And he talked. Just talked like he was explaining a delivery to a customer. My name is Danny Ortega. I'm a mail courier. 2 days ago I delivered a package that turned out to be a dragon egg. That delivery woke up 3 ancient dragons who have been asleep for thousands of years. They followed me because I have genetic markers that tie me to humans who used to partner with dragons, back before we forgot they existed. He kept his voice steady, matter of fact. Right now there's a man named Captain. Morris threatening to kill dozens of dragon eggs unless these 3 adults let him escape with them. He's been hired by someone to steal them. I don't know who, but I know that if those eggs die, an entire generation of an intelligent species dies with them. The last generation born before the dragons went to sleep. Messages started flooding in. Thousands of them. People demanding to know more. News agencies requesting interviews. Scientists offering help. And buried in the noise, official communications from galactic authorities. Boss Reyna's voice cut through on a priority channel. Morris, you idiot. Do you have any idea how many laws you're breaking right now? Stand down immediately. Not a chance, boss. I'm too far in. But Morris sounded less confident. The whole doors stopped opening. Then a new voice joined the channel. Young, uncertain, but determined. Captain Morris, this is Engineer Liu from your crew. I've been watching the broadcasts. Those things in our hold are alive. I can't be part of killing them. Liu, get back to your station. Morris's voice went sharp with anger. I'm at my station, sir, and I'm locking you out of the hold controls. You can't vent the cargo without my authorization, and you're not getting it. Other voices joined in. More crew members who've been watching the broadcasts. A cook, a maintenance tech, a junior pilot. All of them refusing to participate in destroying the eggs. Ash sent a wave of hope through Danny's mind. The dragon recognized what was happening. Humans choosing to protect rather than harm. Humans remembering what they used to be. Morris swore viciously. Fine, fine. Everyone's against me. Let the company deal with the legal mess. I'm out. The cargo ship's engines powered down. But whoever hired me isn't going to be happy. And they have more resources than you can imagine. Danny filed that worry for later. Right now, they had eggs to save. Boss Reyna, can you secure that ship and its cargo? Already on it. Sending a team now. Reyna's voice carried grudging respect. You've got guts, courier. And apparently friends in high places. The Galactic Council just sent an emergency order classifying dragons as protected sentient species. Anyone who harms them faces serious charges. Amara was crying and laughing at the same time. We did it. We actually did it. The 3 dragons released their gravity field and moved toward the cargo ship slowly, carefully. Through his connection with Ash, Danny felt the dragons' overwhelming need to be close to the eggs, to make sure they were safe. Boss Reyna appeared on the video feed. All right, Dr. Okafor, since you seem to be the expert here, how do we transport these eggs safely? Danny watched as Amara launched into a detailed explanation of temperature requirements and handling procedures. The miners listened carefully, their earlier hostility replaced with something like wonder. But Danny couldn't shake what Morris had said. Someone had hired him. Someone with resources wanted dragon eggs badly enough to risk this kind of attention. The fight wasn't over. It was just beginning. 6 months passed in a blur of activity that left Danny exhausted but strangely content. The eggs from the mining site were safely relocated to 3 different sanctuary worlds, guarded by volunteers and monitored by scientists. Amara had established the first human-dragon cultural research institute with funding that poured in from dozens of sources. And Danny kept flying his routes. Except now he had passengers. Ash rode alongside the Wanderer as Danny approached a farming colony on the edge of settled space. Frost and Crimson followed at a distance, keeping watch. The 3 dragons had taught Danny to understand their communications better over the months. Not words, never words, but emotions and images that conveyed meaning more clearly than speech ever could. This colony hadn't been on his original route. But Ash had shown him an image of this place weeks ago, pressing the vision into Danny's mind with gentle insistence. Someone here mattered. Someone the dragons needed to find. The colony consisted of simple buildings scattered across fertile plains. Crops grew in neat rows, tended by families who'd chosen a quiet life far from the crowded core worlds. Danny landed at the small spaceport and checked his cargo manifest. 1 package, addressed to a woman named Lucia Reyes. He loaded the package onto a cart and followed the coordinates to a farm on the outskirts of the colony. A young woman was working in a garden, her hands dark with soil. She looked up as Danny approached and froze. "You're the courier." The one from the news feeds. Her voice was barely a whisper. "The one with the dragons? Danny Ortega?" He offered his hand. She shook it automatically, her eyes darting to the sky where 3 massive shapes circled lazily. "I have a delivery for Lucia Reyes. That's me." She took the package with trembling hands. It was small, wrapped in plain materials, addressed in Amara's handwriting. The moment Lucia touched the package, her eyes went distant. Danny recognized that look. He'd worn it himself 6 months ago when Ash first made contact. Lucia set the package down carefully and pressed both hands to her temples. "I've been dreaming about them my whole life. Flying with them. Sailing through nebulae and dancing around stars. I thought I was going crazy. You're not crazy." Danny gestured to a bench near the garden. "Mind if we sit?" "There's a lot to explain." He told her everything. The ancient partnership. The starbound genetic markers. The eggs scattered across forgotten sanctuaries. How the dragons had been waiting for humans who still carried the old blood to wake up and remember. Lucia listened without interrupting. When he finished, she looked at the package. "What's in there?" "Open it and find out." She unwrapped it slowly. Inside was a smaller container, temperature-controlled and humming faintly with power. Through the transparent top, a crystalline egg pulsed with soft light. Lucia's breath caught. "Is it alive?" "Very much so. That one's been dormant for 3,000 years. Amara thinks it's ready to wake up. It just needs the right person." Danny smiled. "The dragons think you're that person. How do they know?" Lucia touched the container's surface and the egg inside pulsed brighter. "Same way Ash knew about me. They can sense the starbound markers in our genetics. More than that, they can sense who we are inside? Whether we're capable of the partnership." Danny watched as Ash descended slowly, landing on the far side of the field. The dragon's presence was no longer terrifying. It felt right. "You don't have to accept. This is a choice, not an obligation." Lucia stood, holding the container like it was made of glass. She walked toward Ash with steady steps, unafraid. Danny followed, giving her space but staying close in case she needed support. Ash lowered its massive head as Lucia approached. The dragon's golden eyes fixed on her with an intensity that would have terrified most people. Lucia stared back without flinching. I've been dreaming of you specifically, she told the dragon. Black scales with gold veins, eyes like molten metal. I used to wake up crying because I missed you so much and didn't understand why. Tears ran down her face, but she was smiling. You're real. You're finally real. Ash responded with a wash of emotions so powerful. Danny felt it from several meters away. Recognition, joy, relief. The same feelings Ash had shared with Danny 6 months ago. But stronger, more complete. The egg is bonded to you already, Danny explained. Amara's research suggests that starbound children are matched with dragon eggs before either is born. Something in our genetic code calls to them across time and space. Lucia opened the container. The egg lifted out, floating in the air between her hands. Warmth spread across the field and the egg began to crack. What emerged was tiny compared to the adult dragons. No bigger than a large dog, with scales that shimmered between silver and pale blue. It opened eyes that glowed with soft white light and looked directly at Lucia. Then it made a sound, not a roar or a song like the adults, more like a chirp of pure happiness. Lucia laughed and cried at the same time as the baby dragon nuzzled against her chest. Hello, I've been waiting for you. I've been waiting my whole life. Ash's contentment flooded through Danny's connection. This was why they'd waited. Why they'd endured millennia of sleep. For moments like this. For the partnership to be reborn. So what happens now? Lucia looked at Danny, still holding the baby dragon close. Danny pulled a second package from his cart. This one contains Amara's research. History of the Starbound. Training protocols, though honestly we're figuring most of it out as we go. And an invitation to join us. Join you where? Wherever the next egg needs to go. Danny gestured to Ash and the other dragons. There are more sanctuaries out there. More eggs waiting. And Amara thinks there are 6 other people like us scattered across human space. People who've been dreaming of dragons and not understanding why. Lucia looked at her farm, at the quiet life she'd built. Then she looked at the baby dragon in her arms and at the ancient one circling overhead. When do we leave? Danny grinned. Give yourself a few days to get organized. To say proper goodbyes. The dragons have waited this long. They can wait a little longer. He headed back toward his ship. Besides, I've got 3 more deliveries scheduled this week. Regular packages. Boring stuff. It'll be nice to do something normal before the next adventure. As the wanderer lifted off, Danny watched Lucia playing with her dragon in the field below. Ash flew alongside his ship, radiating satisfaction. Through their bond, the dragon showed him images of the future. More eggs waking. More starbound finding their partners. The ancient alliance reborn and stronger than before. Danny Ortega had spent years delivering packages and avoiding complications. Now he delivered hope across the stars and flew with dragons. He wouldn't trade it for anything.